John, hey, congratulations for your new film, New Life.
Thanks, Gig. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's such a riveting st story. I wanted to see how it all ended, but we have to hear it from you first. Is where the original idea came from for New Life?
For a long time, I wanted to tell a story where it opens up, someone's kind of covered in blood, and they're getting it off, and all we know about them is that they need to get out of town. And so I sat on that for a little bit, and then I experienced something that I think was a unique experience. It's called a global pandemic. I don't know. So it started to kind of get infused in that story. And then I started thinking about, okay, well, who's the person that would be tracking that person? And what would the perspective of that be? And then thinking, what could be the most interesting way to tell that in a thriller kind of horror narrative. And that's where New Life came from.
Most excellent. It is always kind of funny is that a lot of these type of films were inspired just out of out of the pandemic. So, what was your approach to make it different from all those other films that also came out of this era?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hear pandemic influenced film, if you're not careful, it can be really a kiss of death. And so I don't know. I think with all this stuff, you have to trust what you think is interesting and try to mind that, and obviously have other people read it and bias check. But I think for me, what was important was, if I was going to tell this story, still make it feel like a big world story, so it's not confined to like a location or a zoom window, so not feel like visually but more influenced thematically, and just the things that I experienced and I felt were really weird about being living through that for a couple of years, and trying to like kind of explore that through this story, whether it was intentional or subconscious, but I think doing that made it a little bit interesting, and people kind of could get on board. And I think it's in the years to come that that kind of genre of like infection, pandemic narrative is going to be really cool, because we as an audience have a unique perspective that people haven't had for a really long time, and so we're a lot smarter. And so when you're telling stories in that world, you can also be a little bit smarter too, because the audience already knows so much having lived through it.
Now, tell us about the development of your two characters of Elsa and Jessica. And I was particularly interested on why you decided to have Elsa going through her issues of ALS.
The genre is a popular one in thrillers, right? Like the hunter and the hunted and cat and mouse. And I think what is unique about New Life is that, I play with that for sure, but by the end of the story, they feel like one story. And so at the beginning of the story, there's this woman, Jessica, who's on the run, and you don't know why she's running, but she's a young woman. The first shot of the film is a young woman covered in blood with a black eye, and then she's on. And so you as the audience are putting a lot on that character. And then we meet the character Elsa Gray, who's supposed to bring her in. And we learn pretty early on that her body's kind of not working the way she wants it to. And so she has ALS. And so at first, this feels like a kind of bizarre choice, right? But the goal is to, by the middle of the film, their stories start to feel kind of similar. And then by the end, we realize that it's more of a broader story about, what do you do when you're dealt a bad hand? How do you kind of come to terms with having your body fail you? And so I thought ALS was interesting in the way that you're still fully functional, but your body's shutting down. And then I've had some personal experiences where I met a young woman my age who had ALS, and she had a lot of hope. And so I thought that was interesting within that narrative, because you see a terrible disease like ALS, and the first thing I think of, I think the first thing a lot of people think of is really doom and gloom, and kind of like this personal apocalypse. But the more research you do, the more people you talk to, actually there's a lot of hope and living one day at a time, and actually this inverse of really valuing life in a new way that I found deeply inspiring. And so I wanted that in the story as well.
Now, before I get to your main cast, I have to say kudos to your makeup team and your other side actors who are victimized in this film. How did you want to basically create sort of the look and movement of these victims?
Um, Thank you. I think my a huge influence on this film was The Fly. And it's not because it's like gross and disgusting, but it's more like at its core, it's a story about a romance between Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum, and then watching someone that you've fallen in love with like decay in front of you, and just the horror of that, right? And it was made during the 80s and during the AIDS epidemic, and so that like idea is really powerful. So I wanted our characters, people we liked, I wanted the makeup to feel gross and unsettling, but still real. And so I think Chernobyl, the HBO show, was a huge influence to the look of it. Obviously, David Cronenberg is my guy. I love David Cronenberg. So it was important for me to be working with our makeup artist, Christina Cordum at Ravenous Studios, on creating a look that was inspired by monkeypox and Ebola, and just like these people that you like. And some of these characters are like young and have their whole life in front of them, just completely decimated by a disease. And so when you have something like ALS that's kind of invisible and it's just kind of someone's body shutting down, in contrast to something so visual, I think it creates like some nuances. And I don't know, that was kind of the direction, but I really have to give a lot of credit to our special effects designer Christina, who really crafted a lot of those looks alone on her own. And she was kind of like this jazz musician taking parts, and then on the day, like airbrushing and punching up and really improving. And she is incredible.
It is incredible. And now tell us why Sonya and Haley is perfect for the two main lead roles for I mean these are two women during this cat and mouse chase during the entire film.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both incredible actors. And if you think about that Jess character, the young woman on the run played by Haley Aaron, she doesn't say a word for about 25 minutes of the film. And then when she does speak, it's pretty caged, and she does not open up until probably like 30 minutes in. But you as the audience like her and are rooting for her. And that's just a testament to her craft, right? That's how she projects emotionally, physically on her face. And so this incredible talent. It's her first film, and she has such an amazing future ahead of her. And then on the other end of it, Sonia Walger, who plays Elsa Gray, incredible actor. She's been a working character actor and having lead roles as well, but amazing. But she's also kind of like the professional, like Le Samurai or something, where someone's like dedicated their life to the craft, but then her body's failing her. And so her whole identity of this work warrior, person of stone is being shattered and chipped away. But she's still hard, and she can't show that vulnerability, and it can only come out kind of like crevasse in a glacier, where you can like look down and see the depth, but you're never really going to see all of it. Such a tricky performance to pull off, because if you're not careful, you just seem unapproachable and alien and remote, and there's nothing an audience can hang themselves to. But she's an incredible actor, and she was able to pull it off. And so we worked together, and we found like emotional points to gravitate towards. But really, I think their performances are testaments to how incredible they are as actors.
Well, let me wrap it up with one last thing because this is your directorial debut. How was that overall experience for yourself?
It was incredible. It was so much fun and challenging. But this is something that I've been wanting to do and really working actively towards for about 10 years. And so um, there's a lot of challenges, little budget, shooting it in the middle of the pandemic, very, very ambitious film. So it was extremely challenging, but it's been really rewarding. And I think something rewarding about it is there's a lot of unconventional things we did with this film, but enough people believed in it and kind of put themselves into it that I think that's why it's successful. So I don't know, the whole experience has been really wonderful, and I'm excited to keep on making films.
Well, John, thank you very much for this conversation about New Life. Everyone should definitely check it out, especially, we came off this pandemic and, and we love to go, but only visit in the fantasy world, like
That's
entertainment.
right. Yeah, make sure to rent it on May 3rd.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
see you.